Good afternoon. Today we are here with Hugo Rodríguez from Vector Cero, one of our main collaborators here in Spain. We have been working together for several years, practically since the beginning of 11 Dynamics. Hugo, thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you to you too.
So, for those who don't know you, could you explain to us a bit? Tell us what Vector Cero is and what you do?
Well, at Vector Cero, we are a company dedicated to metrology. That is where we started, and it is the core of the company. But over time, we have been specializing in that metrology side, giving meaning to the automation side. So now what we are doing, or where we are heading, is toward automated cells specialized in metrology.
We could say you were born into the world of metrology and later moved into automation. It is not that you had the need to enter the world of metrology for your production or...
No, that was a bit of where the industry led us. In the end, we saw that there was a need in the industry to automate that metrology. And so what we did was to move towards industrial processes where a team generated that solution to help the industry with everything related to scanning, metrology, and processes.
How many years have you been in the sector?
In the sector, as Vector Cero, we have been around for about 7 or 8 years since the company was founded. And for about a couple of years, maybe a little more, is when we started specializing in the automated side of things.
Very well. And within these 7 years, is there any project that you remember with fondness, with intensity, something that has left a mark on you?
I have several projects. Above all, well, there are two. One of them is a project for the subject of, above all, automotive, in which they are end-of-line cells, but performing 100% inspections of those parts. So what we report or apply to the industry is an integral solution, so they can have that control and meet a requirement that the client is asking for. That is one. And then the other one we have is the Metrology MoMA, which in the end is a piece of equipment that allows us to, well, just to give you a bit more information, it is a mobile unit with 2 robotic arms. One with the tracker and the other with the scanner, which allows us to take that traditional metrology room right out to the plant floor. They are mobile equipment that allows for measurements to be taken right in the field.
Very interesting. Are your clients mainly in a specific sector, or do you have clients from various different areas?
Well, right now, mainly due to the nature of the work, we are mostly in the automotive sector, but we are also starting to enter aeronautics and the railway industry. As for the percentage, it could be 80% automotive, 15% aeronautics, and 5%. Always speaking in terms of robotic systems. In metrology, we do distribute the sectors a bit more. It is true that we are not, you have a lot of automotive, but those percentages are already a little more spread out.
Very well. So, can we talk a bit about the relationship between Vector Cero and 11 Dynamics? How did it start? How did this relationship begin?
Well, this relationship, in the end, we had some needs within Vector Cero when we started with the subject of knowledge and a bit of research into automated cells for metrology. And that is when, well, we got in touch with 11 Dynamics through Mark. And then that relationship began to see how to integrate everything, how to carry out that integration of the robotic world with the software side to create that cell and be able to provide a solution. It must have been a few years ago. No, I couldn't tell you how many, but it has been a few years.
And among the solutions you offer, you mainly bet on scanology. What is the reason that has led you to use their solutions?
Well, the scanology thing was because, well, given our background in metrology and so on, we had been looking at different products And among those products, while doing studies and such, we saw that Scanology was the best fit for our work and company philosophy. So that is why we bet on them. And because we believe that in terms of equipment, they are the ones that give us the best service range to provide the client with what they need to cover their requirements.
Very well. And from your point of view, how do we help you at 11 Dynamics? What does 11 Dynamics contribute to your projects?
Well, in the end, what 11 Dynamics provides is total integration. I mean that ease of joining an entire cell so that from the same place, you can work on what would be automating that cell, right? From the same place, we can create work points with the robots, with the different components that a cell has, and work with it in a very simple and intuitive way.
Very well. And from what you tell me, right, we help you so that at the moment you are developing the cell for the end client. Here, 11 Dynamics helps you with the EDAS software. But do you think that using software like EDAS is also useful for the end user?
Yes, of course. Ultimately, I think that for the end user, having everything unified in one place helps them, so they do not need to have a lot of knowledge about all the different components that make up a cell, but rather have everything in one place to be able to control it.
And within the projects we do together, what specific problems would you say we solve on the production line?
What problems? Well, ultimately, we often need that packaging of what would be solving that difference between different programs the unification of, in the end, we work with several partners. Each partner has their own way of working. Then there always has to be a core, which is the PLC. And in the end, with EDAS, what it solves for us is that everything is embedded there, that everything grows and originates in the software part, which for us is a great solution and solves that problem for us, right? Whereby just knowing that software, you can already generate the rest.
Very well. And within the solution of working with Scanology, what potential do you see in automation? What helps you the most? Where does it add value? What does a solution like Scanology's offer?
Well, basically, in the status in which we work, at the robotic solution level, it is the automated at the level of the integration that the robot has with the scanner. So from that point of view, we can do it in it makes it very easy for us to use. We solve many problems we had. And for us, Scanology is the software, or rather the hardware, that best integrates with this solution that we need. So it is a very intuitive way to solve problems.
Very well. And technically speaking, which combinations do you see having the most potential? Small setups with very tiny cobots in very tight spaces, or towards larger robots, or the introduction of AGVs or AMRs to move around more easily? Where do you think the sector's heading?
Well, in the end, the way we are, and given our particular nature, we create ad hoc cells for the client. So initially, we see that every sector has a need, and it is best not to limit it to one type, but to open the range to all of them. Ultimately, they all share something. So the cells can range from very small, 3 by 3, with a height of 3.5, to large ones, like 8 meters long. But the core of it all is knowing how to properly unify those robots with that scanner and then the software. Well, it is always about trying to give the client, in other words, see what they need to give them a cell that need. There is a prototype, right? Which is where you start from in the base, but then you have to look a little bit at the need of each one.
Because clients place many limitations on you regarding the space you have. And they say, no, I have to measure this part that is 3 meters long, but I only have this 3 by 3 space. Or do they give you some flexibility so you can offer what you think is best for a solution that is as efficient as possible?
Of course, often clients have very limited space because they are already established factories. So they leave you a very small area to set up your solution. But what we try to do is find a solution, whether through rotary tables or any other type of solution, that we can adapt to the client. It is always best, of course, when they give us the most spectacular space possible where we can set up a solution for our needs. Because, the scanner with the tracker, well, it needs to have certain distances. If I am below those distances, I cannot see it. If I am, which will never be the case, but if I am too far away, I cannot see it either, right? So, well, in terms of adapting and what the client proposes, you always try to find the optimal solution and try to reach a compromise between the two to find the best solution for both.
Going back to the beginning and talking about these projects, right? Which one do you think was technically the most complex? And I imagine that in the end, when it's out and everything is working, it fills you with more satisfaction, doesn't it? Can we go into a bit, right? Into the details? What that project was like, what the challenges were behind it that made it complex?
I think that in the end, the biggest project and the one I am most invested in due to its development is the MoMA, the mobile manipulator. It is a mobile system within a plant where, of course, that equipment has to move around the plant with the different problems we encounter in a facility, forklifts, AGV systems. So, well, also the measurement, we are already measuring with a metrology system, not from a fixed site, but to any point in the plant. So I think this solution is the one that adds the most value or the one we are most fond of, because we believe it is the one that has also demanded a lot from us, both as a company in terms of metrology and robotics. And we think, well, for me, it is the nicest one, right?
In this project, you haven't just managed to move from the metrology room to the production floor, but to move within the production floor where parts are measured as needed, right? You have the flexibility with the AMR to reach different points within the plant itself and measure there on site.
Yes, basically what we have for the client is a console where the client generates a series of tasks. Well, it generates those tasks, are already predefined, so they select those tasks and they are queued. So the MoMA is totally autonomous, let's say, to go to those sites, position itself, and measure. So that flexibility it gives you and the innovation is quite significant.
Just a curious question. What does MoMA stand for? Does it have any meaning?
Yes, mobile manipulator. Well, in the end, it is a mobile manipulation robot. As it could also be, we always put MoMA in front of it, and then you add the tag. It is it is the Metrology MoMA, or the pick-and-place MoMA. So, well, it is a mobile manipulator. That is the definition.
You apply the same solution for different objectives, metrology, pick and place.
That is right. Ultimately, since we work with different manufacturers, our know-how is in the top part, as we call it, which is what sits on top of that autonomous mobile robot. So that is where we apply all our knowledge, and depending on the type of solution, within each of that top, we develop to manage to provide an approach, right? An approach and a need to solve it with all this development.
And, right? Speaking of complex projects, where is the trend heading within the world of production? My feeling is that before, we had metrology rooms with very controlled environments where a very limited number of parts could be measured per day. This is changing. What do you think the future will be? An inline process where all parts are measured, but not everything, or something more hybrid where all parts are measured, but there are others that are measured completely. How do you envision the future a bit?
I think that in the end, quality will always tend to be as much as, it will also depend on the client's needs. But of course, the more the part requires that quality, the more control I want to have. So, in the end, we always tend to have greater control and higher quality, which is why I think it will be having that 100% control of parts. It is also true that it is complex because every case or every company has a format. So, it depends on the type of part and also where we are going. I think it will be 100% in the automotive field, or almost 100%, and then a hybrid generated in the part of another sector, or it depends on the number of batches you need to control. I think in the end it will have to be a 100% is achievable, and it does. We are doing it, but a hybrid I think is the most well-rounded.
Do you also help your clients process all this information they now have, which they didn't have before, to make the most of it? Or is this something the client decides for themselves, based on the information they get from your solutions, what to do or what?
Well, in the end, when we generate all that information for them, when we give them that file, that document, where we are telling them the differences or the adjustments, well, whatever they need to see, what they do after that, as of today, is a bit, well, they have to correct it on their machine or have to make modifications. It is true that we are also working on being able to feed the main machine, so that it corrects itself. It is a little bit, I think that will also be a bit of the future.
That is the
yes,
vision,
the vision
right?
is
to leverage all this data to provide feedback to production and make corrections.
we are ultimately at the end of the line. Until it reaches me depending on the type of part, from when it starts until it comes out, it will take time, right? It can be a longer process, but I think it would be good to provide feedback to that lead unit, so it can have an improvement.
And so, for a company that is not yet automated in the world of measurement, that still works in a very manual way, what would be your advice for taking a first step? Like, okay, I am measuring this, I have specialized people who spend a lot of time, we want to improve. What would you recommend besides coming to visit you?
Besides, we are here. What would you recommend? Well, it is complicated, right? Because in the end, these are machines that, well, it is a high financial investment, right? Well, but in the end, it is. If you do not do it, you will be left behind, because your competition surely will. So what I would recommend is, above all, to see those parts and start automating processes. It doesn't have to be robotics or anything, but rather automatic processes that allow me to control those operations and, in a way, autonomously generate those files or anything that allows me to grow. But above all, I think in the end we have to keep automating. You can't go from 0 to 100 in 0, without going through all the ones in between, but you do have to start growing a little bit by looking for solutions, right? We can also, provide those solutions.
I imagine that often there is perhaps the temptation to think, well, I can do this myself. I do not need anyone from the outside to help me. In the end, it is just X. But then, as always, the devil is in the details. And the experience a company like yours can offer, I imagine, adds great value to achieve the goal in a reasonable time. And so that achieving what is doesn't become a mess.
Yes, of course. Ultimately, we are a company that handles those types of integrations, and we are fully knowledgeable about the technology, both in metrology and the robotic side. Often, companies might buy this equipment to do it themselves, but due to a lack of time, because new parts keep coming in and they can't get to it, they don't dedicate the necessary time to it. Often, I think it is better for a company, an integrator, someone knowledgeable and expert in this, having all the know-how and the expertise to do it, and then subsequently, you can start making small integrations and growing. That is, I think, the better way, right? Because otherwise, time just eats you up. and an integration that should take 6 months turns into a year and a half.
Very well. Also, you mentioned earlier that you recently have two divisions, the metrology part, which is your origin, and now you also have a robotics division. In the end, 11 Dynamics also has a similar origin, right? Where the roots are very closely linked to metrology. Do you think that 11 Dynamics software also has a place in this new robotics division? Can it help you there?
Yes, in the end, whatever it is, 11 Dynamics for us is ultimately integrating our robot solution in one single place. That big PLC that you had to spend so much time struggling with, moving from that to creating an environment, right? Within the 11 Dynamics software, where from that same point you can manage different components that help you work more easily. So for us, it definitely has a place in our robotics division.
And to wrap things up a bit, what is your experience, your opinion on working with 11 Dynamics?
Well, for us, we have been working with 11 Dynamics for quite some time now. Our experience has always been very good in every way, both in terms of integration, those first steps to see if the solution can be carried out, and in terms of the service and support that 11 Dynamics provides us. So for us, in the different machines we have, it is a very beneficial solution.
Very well. Thank you very much for your time. It has been a pleasure, and until next time.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you very much.